Hey, how you doing, everybody? This is Sleep, member of Memes and Dreams and Quantum of Robocraft, talking to you. And what we've got here is the major update, the F equals MA update, or at least phase 1 of that. Comes to us on Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. Hope you and your loved ones are having a great time. But we've got some bad news for the Robocraft community, or what's left of it. And I'm going to go through this. So this post will be linked in the description down below. I will include the regular Robocraft news link and the Steam community link, because that's where they post updates as well. So whichever one you want to click on, you can. We're going to go over it. They have a showcase video here. Watch it if you want. They have this GIF that was posted on their Twitter, which shows that hovers can brake really well but can't actually get moving again. That's a theme, by the way. Hovers are effectively dead. And we got the major agility overhaul. So sprinters, they got their weird paws removed after they jump, which is a good thing. Here you can see all the parts listed. So we've got mech legs, right? Sprinters and regular. Hovers, you got rotors, thrusters, and propellers. Basically, they saw that I built mech helis using these parts and said nerf it. That's probably not what they said. But that's what I like to think. I like to think my mech helis were so bad that they said, we have to make sure this guy doesn't think they're good, so we gotta nerf him again. CPU progression. They use fancy words here. Don't let this fool you. This is not CPU progression. This is, we're trying to gate the grind so that new players have to stick around longer, which is an okay thing. But you don't limit the tier CPU. So Jordan Rivers' point holding bot, which is probably the most dominant bot in tier 1, is still allowed in tier 1. Right? Nothing changed. You can still bring that bot, which is absurdly good, by the way. It's a really well-built bot, into a match with like level 1s and just roll them completely. So this CPU progression is not a thing. Right? You start out with a bay with like 750 CPU, you spend Robits to upgrade it gradually, whatever. It's dumb. You got new starter bots because they limited your starting CPU. That's fine. Well, let's keep moving. AI taken to the sky. So if you thought AI fed before in mechs and cars and tanks, now they're in planes and helis. Expect them to feed a whole hell of a lot. Cosmetic credits are now cosmic credits. No one cares. Now, these weapon feedback changes are huge. They have these weird like diagrams where they show you the vote on each individual thing of that survey that we took a while ago, and they tell you on the side what happened. But if you just scroll down, it tells you right here in text form what happened. So we nerfed lasers again, but we also gave them a slight energy buff. The damage on lasers was fine except for the tier 5. The tier 5 should have been the only one affected by this nerf. And the energy consumption was horrible on everything, including the tier 5, so this buff is needed. Plasmas. I said this, they used to be either the second or third best weapon in the game. Now they're probably the third or fourth. I think that Mega SMG, even with this nerf, is going to be better than Mega Plasma, because you got a 15% damage nerf. You did get a buff to your blast radius, which I don't know if that'll affect anything. I guess it'll make it more like easier to hit. That's usually what that does. We got energy consumption reduction, as in accordance with this damage reduction, which is needed. If you didn't do this, this damage reduction would actually kill the entire weapon. I fully believe that. Plasma is a burst weapon, and whenever you nerf the burst, you almost kill it. And you increased the time between each shot, so instead of just vomiting out shots at quite the rate you're used to, it's going to be barely slower. You probably won't even notice it. Rails, we're going back to like boost era rails a little bit, which is good. That's all I wanted, man. All I wanted were my boost era rails back. So we've increased the damage per shot by 10%, increased the energy usage by 10%, increased time between shots by 0.2 of a second. That's going to be noticeable. It means you can't just left click. You'll have to get used to the timing. And we've decreased movement and accuracy by 5%. This feels like an arbitrary number. Like, it feels random. I would have to extremely like play with it and feel to see if it actually buffed it at all. I don't think it has an extreme change. I think Rail's still going to feel just as inaccurate as it did. This movement and accuracy thing was stupid when it was introduced. I've gotten kind of used to it. I would much prefer for it to just leave, though. Make it only inaccurate in the air, and no one has a problem with it except people who don't know how to dodge. Nano got a buff. I'm okay with this healing per shot buff. I don't like this energy consumption buff at all. I said it the last time you did this, I'll say it again. Nano should be a very good burst heal, but it should not be sustainable. Now we're making it we're trying to get it back to being a sustainable high heal. It's not gonna work. You're gonna hear the cries of nano spam and the nano circles again. It's just stop, please. Arrow Flak, we buffed it. Not the buffs I really want. Damage by 5%, good. Energy consumption reduction. That's extremely needed, because you were still eating straight through your energy bar with Flak. But again, all this really does is kill planes and bad hovers. Sorry, not hovers. Bad helis. Drones are still fine. Sure, that initial Flak's gonna hurt a little bit more, but like you get 1 or 2 explosions on the drone and then they just drop. They break line if they're good. If they're bad, you'll pick them apart. Seekers, an important thing to note about Seekers. This is Proto Seeker and Lommel. So Seekers got a damage nerf, good. They got an energy consumption buff to coincide with this damage nerf. That doesn't bother me. And they've got an increased projectile range. This does bother me. We nerfed this because it felt like they were shooting too far. I don't like buffing it again. It gives me a bad vibe. Ion's got a buff. Good. Ion's needed a buff. So damage per shot got a very slight buff. Energy consumption got a noticeable buff. And the time between shots got a kind of buff. I don't know if you'll actually be able to feel this. I highly doubt it. And this energy consumption, that's helpful. Damage per shot, always a good thing on a burst weapon to get buffed if you want it to perform well. And that's all fine. I think Ion is okay with these changes. Nothing I don't have any qualm with it. Chain gun, no changes. That's an issue for me. And I'm going to rant on this for a second. Chain, man. Chain sucks. It sucks. And you don't buff it. I don't know why you don't buff it. If you looked at the answers on the part above, where they had all the summation of the answer of questions, Chain got cries for a buff. And they said, no, Chain's good. We buff stuff that got less votes than Chain for a buff, and we just ignore it. Chain sucks. It's supposed to be like Ion, but consistent and instead of burst, and it's not. It's like a PSK that's close range. It's horrible. You gotta buff it. You gotta find a way to make it balanced. Mortar. I think Mortar's the new Plasma. So we've got another damage buff and a projectile range buff, which is significant for me, because Mortar, it always felt like my shots were just too short. And now I've been making Mortar hit harder than it used to, and reducing Plasma's damage. Mortar's probably going to be, because everything's really immobile, so it's going to be easier to hit Mortar shots. It's going to take over the ground game. You're not going to really see that much Plasma on ground in Tier 5 anymore, I'd imagine. It'd be mostly Mortar, and that's fine with me. I don't have an issue with it. Tesla got the only buff that I said it needed, being the health buff. So good for you, Tesla. You deserve it. I'm so happy for you, because now you Tesla players can get to kill me even more, because I don't play with sound on. That's all the balance changes. The agility changes, of course, I can't really quantify with words. You have to play them. Just know that hovers suck. Rotors are really good. Sprinters are really good. RoboPass ends in 4 days, so if you haven't spent the $10 or the $5 and you want to tell FreeGem that they suck, don't spend it. If you want the whatever cosmetics in it, go ahead. It's $5 or $10. It's no real big deal. That's all I've got for you on the patch notes. If you like the video, be sure to like. If you're new around here, maybe consider subscribing and click that bell icon. Tell me in the comments below what you think that these changes are going to do for the future of Robocraft, and do you think that this game even has a year left before it's all said and done and gone away with? Until next time, take care. Peace.